What happened in the Bryan Kohberger hearing to talk about the DNA evidence? Fuel me once here, driving instructor of the world. Bryan Kohberger entered the courtroom today in a suit, and since he's still presumed innocent, he's allowed to wear court-appropriate clothing. He does not have to dress in his prison outfit. And part of the hearing was public, part of the hearing was private, where only the families could listen over Zoom. Court TV did broadcast some of it, but not the whole thing. So here's what happened, both the private and the public part of the hearing. This was a motion to compel the state to give up all the evidence they have, the whole process of how they trace the DNA from the very beginning through the family profiles, the genetic genealogy, that was easy to say, and how they came up with Bryan Kohberger's name. The state argues they don't have to produce that because once they filed that and got a name, they verified this with other evidence. So they didn't even use the DNA evidence in their probable cause warrant. The defense says you wouldn't have even had his name if you hadn't used this DNA, so we need to know your process. There was lots of argument and lots of questions about genetic genealogy. So basically, here's what happens. The two biggest genealogy database companies, Ancestry.com and 23andMe, which is also, I think, owned by Ancestry.com, they do not allow police to use their database for any kind of criminal prosecution. They don't even allow them to look at it, but other companies do. The issue is that you have to, once you upload your file, select that you allow police to be able to look at it or that you don't want police to look at it. So the defense is saying, hey, how do we know you didn't violate this by looking at profiles that didn't allow you? Because there's a lot of ways to cheat the system. The FBI could create files, or the police could create files and do a search. You could be pulling up people who didn't give their consent. And the FBI may have violated DOJ guidelines, Department of Justice guidelines. And the prosecution said, well, we don't have what they did. And the court's like, well, that's your responsibility to have it, because it's part of your case. The defense brought up some other ways to cheat too. Basically, they're saying, look, there are ways to get around, even if someone said you couldn't look at it, you may have, and so we need to look at that process. They're going to try to throw out both the process and the DNA evidence. That's why they want this information. This is a due process issue that has ramifications for nationwide cases. The defense had 5 experts there to testify, either from documents or today 4 in the courtroom. The defense said, hey, you can't have these as expert witnesses because they're all attorneys. And the defense said, hey, you knew about this way back when we filed this motion, which was a long time ago. And the state says, well, that shouldn't matter. The defense was really, really good today, and the state was not. All they did was make arguments that they've already made before in motions. Nothing new at all, but the defense was really on point today. And the judge even said at one point, you know, I don't want there to be an appeal later arguing that the defense did not have all the information they needed. Now, he didn't make a ruling yet, but that's some indication of where he might be going with this. The defense also said there were other profiles uploaded that the police were looking at besides Bryan Kohberger, and the state admitted that, but said, well, 3 of them didn't even qualify, and the state said, well, why? What's, again, your process? But we need to know the other names you looked at. And the state's like, well, one of the reasons we can't give you our process is because there's people who, again, may not want their ties to Bryan Kohberger revealed. The families have a right to their own protection, even if they didn't, say police couldn't look at it. They may not want it looked at in this case. The defense says, well, we're still entitled to it. We've got more on Bryan Kohberger coming up in the next few videos. In the road of life, please drive kind. Thank you.